With the offseason slowly approaching, and there's a lot of big name players actually in some trade talks out there. So in today's video, I wanted to talk about 5 NHL players who might be traded this offseason. I want to start off with one of the players that is less likely to be traded on this list, and that is Milan Lucic of the Edmonton Oilers. And I say he's less likely to be traded than other names on this list because he is on a terrible contract that sees him signed through the 2022-23 season at a $6 million average. And for the production that he's been giving the Oilers over the past 2 seasons, that really is a terrible contract. He's 30 years old. He's played in 890 career NHL games, 198 goals, 303 assists for 501 points, and most of his really productive seasons coming with the Boston Bruins earlier on in his career. Last year, 79 games played, 6 goals, 14 assists for 20 points, and for a guy who a lot of the time is on a wing of Connor McDavid, who is arguably the most talented player in the entire NHL, you think he would put up a little bit better of offensive numbers, but that hasn't been the case over the past 2 seasons, and with Ken Holland as the new GM, it definitely is going to be tough to find a team that is going to want to take on the contract of Milan Lucic. I'm quickly looking at a team like Arizona, who's always out there taking on some contracts that teams no longer want. They'll most likely have to throw in a pretty decent draft pick or a pretty decent prospect if Arizona or any team is going to want to take on this contract. But yeah, I can really only see maybe Arizona doing this. They have the Pavel Datsyuk contract, which is up this summer, Marian Hossa, Dave Bolin, and stuff like that. So honestly, I don't really see him being traded, but his name seems to always be in trade talks. Not really because the other team wants him, but because they know they can get something decent from the Oilers because they want to unload this contract so bad. The next player I wanted to talk about is Nazem Kadri of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and if Toronto is going to make a significant move this offseason, I honestly think that Nazem Kadri could be involved in it. Like Steve Dangle said in his final LFR of the season, you need players on your team that you can trust, and even though Kadri said after the game and in the locker room cleanout that it wouldn't happen again, he would never do something stupid to get himself suspended at such a big time, it's too little too late. It was 2 years in a row in big games when they needed him and he wasn't available due to suspension and not being able to keep his cool. And Nazem Kadri is on a pretty team-friendly contract considering this is a guy who had back-to-back 30-goal seasons, but obviously this year we saw his role kind of diminished and him play a third-line center role, so obviously he wasn't going to put up the offensive numbers that we're used to Kadri, putting up, but definitely if he is on a new team and in a top 6 role, I definitely think he could get back to that 30-goal score. He's 28 years old. In 561 career games, he has 161 goals, 196 assists for 357 points. This past season, like I said, with the diminished role, 73 games played, 16 goals, and 28 assists for 44 points. But when we talk about teams that would be interested in trading for Nazem Kadri or good fits for him, no team really jumps to mind. Maybe a team like the Vancouver Canucks. Colorado's a team that's lacking some offensive depth that could use some help. Same with like the Dallas Stars, maybe the Chicago Blackhawks. A team like that I could see him potentially being traded to. But I definitely think a lot of teams in the NHL would be very, very interested if Toronto was open to trading him this summer. And in my opinion, it is something we very well could see happening. But then again, I wouldn't be surprised if on opening night next season, Nazem Kadri is still a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs. But it definitely will be an interesting offseason with the Leafs, and we'll have to just see what happens. The next player I want to talk about is Yanni Gourde of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I haven't really heard his name thrown around in trade rumors, but I definitely think there is potential that we see him on the move this summer. He's a 27-year-old centerman, 184 games played in his career, 53 goals, 68 assists for 121 points, and obviously after his amazing season last year, Tampa Bay extended him to that nice contract that sees him signed for the 2024-25 season at a $5.16 million annual average, and that is a lot of money for a guy who kind of declined in his production last year. 80 games played, 22 goals, 26 assists for 48 points. For a guy that's making north of $5 million, you expect a little bit more from him, and obviously he was kind of overlooked because this Tampa Bay Lightning team has so much firepower, and he's not going to get as many offensive looks on this team as he would on some other teams, playing on a number 1 power play unit, playing in a top 6 role and stuff like that. So I definitely think with Tampa Bay having to pay pay Braden Point this summer and going to have to pay him a lot of money. Eventually, they're going to have to pay guys like Anthony Cirelli and Matthew Joseph. I honestly think Yanni Gourde is a guy that we could see, kind of as a salary dump. But if it isn't Yanni Gourde, then it definitely could be a guy like Tyler Johnson, Andre Palat, and stuff like that. Because think, Kucherov makes a lot of money. Stamkos makes a lot of money. Braden Point is going to make a ton of money. Same with Hedman and McDonough and Vasilevsky. This team has a lot of money to give out and not much to give out to guys that are only giving you like 48 points. So honestly, I think there is potential we could see him being traded out of the Tampa Bay Lightning in kind of like a salary dump kind of move. I could also see them doing that with Tyler Johnson or Andre Palat. But Yanni Gourde, even though he has only played 184 NHL games, he isn't the youngest guy. He is 27 years old. He was a late bloomer, but definitely I think he still could be very, very valuable to some teams that would want him. And, I think he would thrive in a top 6 role with some power play minutes and stuff like that, because obviously he has scored 30 goals before. He had an amazing season last year. He didn't just get this contract extension for no reason. So Tampa Bay, I think they're a little bit premature on giving Yanni Gourde such a long contract, but like I said, he is up there in age at 27 years old. He's not as young as most guys who would only have played 184 games to this point in their career, but definitely I think they have enough players to, replace him, that if they do trade him out, get some draft picks and maybe a prospect or something like that, it definitely wouldn't hurt the team, I think, in the least little bit. So look for Yanni Gourde's name this summer to maybe be thrown around in trade talks, but then again, I wouldn't be surprised if he is a member of the Tampa Bay Lightning next season. Next up on the list is TJ Brodie of the Calgary Flames. Now, TJ Brodie has been a guy who garnered a lot of criticism from Calgary Flames fans over the past couple of seasons. He's only 28 years old, and I still think he has a lot to give. But honestly, with this Calgary Flames team having a lot of young up-and-coming defensemen like Valimaki, Rasmus Anderson, potentially coming in and being top 4 defenders, I think TJ Brodie, honestly, there's a good chance that he is on a different team come next season. He's played in 570 NHL games in his career so far, 44 goals and 203 assists for 247 points. Obviously, he's known a lot for his shot blocking, and he chips in offensively here and there as well. This past season, 79 games played, 9 goals and 25 assists for 34 points. A decent year, but obviously overshadowed by the Norris Trophy caliber season that Mark Giordano had. He's under contract till next season, $4.65 million average, so he will be an unrestricted free agent next offseason, not this up-and-coming one, and I definitely think as a rental, he could be pretty valuable to some teams out there, and he doesn't make a ridiculous amount of money either, only $4.65 mil, and I definitely think with Calgary having those young up-and-coming defensemen that could potentially take his spot, I don't think it would be a big loss for him if they were to be able to trade him out. I'm not quite sure what a return would look like if they did end up trading out TJ Brodie. I definitely think there could be maybe a 2nd or 3rd round pick in there, and then maybe like a decent NHL player or a decent prospect, but I don't think he would really garner a really big return. But I definitely think, like I said, Calgary has a lot of good defensemen coming up in the system, and I don't think they would miss him if they were to trade him out. And I honestly think if we're talking about defensemen, he might be the most likely defenseman to be traded this offseason, and I have seen his name in trade rumors on websites here and there a little bit, but not as much as some other guys on this list. But nonetheless, I honestly would not be surprised if we do see TJ Brodie on a new NHL team come next season. Obviously, the Toronto Maple Leafs come to mind, but he does make a little bit of money, for their liking. Obviously, they're in a little bit of a cap issue, but they are looking to make things work. But, really any team that needs a defenseman, I think TJ Brodie would fit very, very well. And now, finishing out the video with the biggest name, and that is Evgeni Malkin. And to my surprise, he has actually heard his name linked to trade rumors a lot lately, and linked to the Florida Panthers, which I find very, very interesting. And if Florida is all in on Malkin and they do make something work, it would definitely be an all-in win-now move from the Florida Panthers, because Malkin is 32 years old. He's played in 852 career games, 391 goals, 611 assists for 1,002 points. Obviously, we know what Malkin is capable of, and I definitely think he can still do that for 2 to 3 more seasons. This previous season, though, he didn't have the greatest year. 68 games played, 21 goals, 51 assists for 72 points, which over a point per game, that is, considered very, very good. But the minus 25 for a playoff team like the Pittsburgh Penguins, that isn't going to cut it, and I think that is a big reason why we are hearing Malkin's name kind of linked to trade rumors lately. And I also saw on, I believe it was NHLTradeRumors.com, a very, very good website, that there is some truth to these rumors, and people close to the Penguins organization have heard them say that these are true. Malkin's name is out there in trade rumors and linked to the Florida Panthers, which, like I said, that's very interesting. He's under contract through the 2021-22 season at a $9.5 million annual average, and I'm not quite sure what a return for Malkin would look like. Obviously, they would have to give up a lot, because Malkin is a superstar in this league. Even though he is 32, he still is a superstar. They're definitely going to have to give up an established, very good NHL player, and then probably some draft picks and maybe a prospect. But definitely very interesting that we hear Malkin's name, thrown around in trade rumors, because like I said, you don't really see this happen in the NHL too often. Players to his caliber get traded. So if I had to put my money on it, I would honestly say I don't think he is going to be traded this summer. I think he's going to be a member of the Pittsburgh Penguins till that contract is up, and maybe even till he retires. But we never know, anything can happen in the NHL. So make sure you guys let me know what you think. Is there potential that Malkin is traded, and if so, will it be to the Florida Panthers? Well, that is going to wrap up this video. I really hope you guys did enjoy, and remember, like I said, I'm no insider. I'm kind of just looking at trade rumors and looking at players on teams that are not in the greatest situation that I definitely think have the potential to be traded, and I'm not saying they will 100% be traded either. Most of these players, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they aren't traded, but I just thought it would be a pretty fun video to make, and make sure to let me know down in the comment section what you guys think, if any of these players will be traded, and if so, where will they be traded to. And with that being said, I hope you guys all enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure to drop a like on it and subscribe to the channel for daily NHL content, and I will see you guys all in the next video.